Hello, Hockey World. Let's get right to it. It's Friday, April 27th, 2018.
I'm Mike Lagello, live in Toronto.
I'm Peter Tessier, excited in Winnipeg.
I'm Russ Cullen, repping Infinity Wars that I'm about to go see.
That's right. That's right. And I'm Ekman, who can't see Infinity Wars this weekend because I'm going to be at Cornell. Welcome to HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And my floor looks pretty dirty over there, so I'm going to put this up just a little bit like that. No one will know the difference. All right. Yeah, let's get right to it. How the hell? What the hell? How is this happening? I mean, are we going to wake up? I keep thinking, I told my wife, I'm like, okay, either Gerard Gallant has made some kind of evil, deal with Satan himself, or this is like an angel in the outfield type thing going on, or we're all waking up like it's October 12th, and I'm like, oh man, I just had the weirdest dream that Vegas won the division and then swept the Kings and then beat the Sharks 7-0 in the first. What the hell is happening?
Well,
I'm absolutely gotten to the point where I'm spellbound. Like, I don't know what is going on. Like, this is nothing like we've ever seen before, and it's getting spooky to me.
Well, it is like something we've seen before in a different way. So,
Joe, tell me, please. I need help because this is spooky.
I think this is the 21st century version of like the left wing lock. I think when Detroit came up with that, nobody had a solution, and everybody went up against it, had a problem. And I think everybody goes into the Vegas series thinking, all right, look, we could outman them, we could play our game. You can't play your game. And what San Jose did that was a huge mistake that I felt like was on the power play. They were very passive, and you could see the Vegas was playing right up on them, like man-to-man defense in basketball, and they didn't adjust at all. And I think they will adjust now for a second game, but I think they basically gave a game away. Now, Martin Jones didn't help with the four goals on 7 shots, and Vegas played great. And look, I love players like Alex Tuch. I actually – at the time that I did that mock draft in Tuch's draft, I said the Flyers should have taken Alex Tuch. That's who I had them taking.
I remember that.
They took Travis Sanheim, which is okay, but now you can see Alex Tuch is a really good player too. End of the day, I just don't think the Sharks were prepared, and I think Vegas was totally prepared. And now Vegas makes you play their game, and if you can beat them at their game, then you can beat them. If you try and play your game against them, you're dead.
Hey, all I know is that my pick of Vegas in this round looks pretty good right now, huh?
Yep.
Well, no, I didn't see a lot of this. I didn't see a lot of this game because I had to come up to Toronto for the locker clean out for the Leafs. But in seeing the highlights, I mean, Russ is right on. I mean, Vegas makes you play that speed game. And if you don't, they will blow by you. I mean, what was it? 4 goals in 12 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, San Jose was just like dumbstruck about what happened. And if they don't adjust, then we know Peter DeBoer is a smart coach. He will try to adjust. But the thing is, you have to have a certain level of speed and to combat what Vegas does. And I don't know if San Jose has it.
It's not only speed, Mike. If you stretch the ice out, you stretch out passes, you do things like that. They were doing a little of that, and then Vegas can't cover you because you could only play up on guys so much. If you do stretch passes, or if you're in the offensive zone and guys get in the corners and you throw them to the corners and go near and have somebody cutting through the crease, they can't cover that. But they weren't doing enough of that either.
No, they weren't. And I mean, okay, we can say, they've got a great defensive system. We can say that they're fast, that they've got a goalie who's now stopping 98-point-something% of the shots thrown his way, right? I mean, and obviously goalie is, we've talked about it before. Kevin Allen's joked about that this sport should be called goalie, and I do agree that that's often the case. But, the reality is here, all those things other teams have done before, and yet there's a mystique now. There's it's getting bigger than anything I've ever seen. And it's always been big, but to think that they could actually, the Sharks swept the Ducks. Okay. Remember that the Ducks are not great. They have defensive issues. We know all the problems, but they are still a good team in the NHL. A lot of people pick the Ducks. The Sharks swept the Ducks. The Knights beat the Sharks 7-0, and it could have been worse. Martin Jones wasn't terrible in that game, as strange as it sounds. At what point
Yeah, I mean, the Sharks only gave up 4 goals in the whole series, and they gave up 4 goals quickly in that game. Like that's
and Vegas only scored 7 goals in their whole first series, and they scored 7 goals last night. You know, so I mean, the crazy. So now we're looking.
So they're taking that in. The law of averages just came to just sorted it out, right? Like the Sharks only gave up 4 goals, they just allowed 7, which is where they should have been. Vegas only scored 7 goals, and then they just added another 7 or whatever, right? It's just averages catching up, and it just happened in one really bizarre instance. What makes it so intriguing is that Vegas is just doing this in a way that we've never seen any expansion team do it. So it's the expansion aura of
expansion aura is
outrageous success.
Well, if you want to know why Chuck Fletcher doesn't have a job, he gave Alex Tuck to them, gave him away just so they would take Eric Holla. And so 2 of their players, their second line, 2/3 of it are the Minnesota Wild.
That were given so that they wouldn't take.
Well, one player was.
And who were they protecting in Minnesota again? Like they were protecting Brodin.
They're defensemen, Brodin or Dumba, I think. But see,
I think Dumba was exposed.
Yeah, but this is the reason, and this is not any kind of great revelation, but this is the reason why Vegas is not the prototypical expansion team. I mean, look back, 74 when it was Washington. Look at Tampa Bay and Ottawa. Those teams were crap because the expansion rules, and there was no salary cap, and a lot of these teams, made side deals with George McPhee to allow them to actually get good players and to get prospects for taking other players. And all they did was take players Gerard Gallant knew Riley Smith. Yeah. So he was very happy to take Riley Smith and get Marchessault on top of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and right now, I don't know how many of their moves didn't work out because most of them did, and everything is falling into place. And as Kevin Allen said, goaltending is the most important thing. And when you have a guy who's won 3 Stanley Cups, that helps.
Yeah. It does help, but even then, there's a point at which we have not seen a team dominate. It's beyond expansion teams; it's just teams. It's
teams. But that's why I go back to the Red Wings team that everybody thought, oh well, the Flyers, they have a Legion of Doom; they'll just figure this out and roll over them, and they couldn't do anything. And right now, that's what we're watching.
It's unbelievably fascinating to me.
But all the Red Wings did in that series, Russ, was adopt what the Devils did to them a few years before, because the Devils played a shutdown game against Detroit, and then 2 years later when they played Philadelphia, they did the same. They just did the same thing to the Flyers. So.
Right. But I'm just saying it's a system, and it was a system that worked. These guys are using a system, and right now this system, no one's figuring it out.
Exactly.
And but in order to play a system at this level in the NHL, teams saw them do it all year.
Yeah.
In order for them to do it, unless teams just are not paying, unless teams are just taking them way too lightly, unless San Jose is they'll be fine.
I think it's what I said at the beginning. I think when you come in and you just won a series, your coach says we're going to play like Sharks hockey, right?
Right.
Well, they did, and they got their ass beat. So now they can't play Sharks hockey anymore. They've got to play Vegas hockey, and they've got to beat them at their own game.
They have to figure out how they play Sharks hockey against Vegas playing Vegas hockey.
Yeah, but that may by the time you figure that out, you may be down 3-0.
Yeah, they played Sharks hockey, and Vegas was Chief Brody with the rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah, at some point, I picked the Sharks in the series now, and I feel like an idiot. I
don't feel like an idiot because I picked them too, but
no, but I think you're an idiot as well, and I think
you're both idiots. You're both idiots.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there, Ek.
We're both idiots.
I'm not saying that, but you know what? Here's the other thing, Ek. So Evander Kane again shows why you cannot give him a long-term deal, because in a game that's clearly over, he loses his cool, and he not only cross-checks the guy once, he does it twice to Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, a guy that we hold in high regard to begin with, who now may be out for part of the series. They're saying that there could be an injury there, and the Sharks are going to miss one of their best scorers because he didn't like what was going on in the ice. He got frustrated.
Yeah, here, Department of Player Safety. You didn't see the first one? Here, let me do it again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Talk about
and that was ridiculous. And And this is a definite for Evander Kane. This is a huge issue, right? Because
well, yeah, but this shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, honestly, over the last few years, it's been clearly determined that Evander Kane is an idiot. It's either off the ice or on the ice, and in this instance, he's been successful ever since he got traded to San Jose. Everything has gone right. He turned his season. I mean, he had a pretty decent season with Buffalo, but he scored goals for them. He was big for them in the first round win over Anaheim, and now he does this when you're down 7-0, you're going to do something stupid like that, and do what you're thinking you're motivating your team. Well, it's going to be tough to motivate them when you're out for 2 games, you idiot.
yeah, I mean, it is going to be hard, and I think it's unfair to call him an idiot, though. I think that, the off the ice stuff and all the stuff that goes on there, you kind of have to. I mean, that's one thing, and there's lots of players with off the ice issues, but but on the ice he's been pretty good. He's been pretty composed.
And I said that, but I mean, back it's a narrative. All I'm saying is that
there's a long narrative to this thing, but I think that it's hard at times. Sometimes you have to. These guys are so young. I like to give everybody a shot, like everybody. And I think that what he did on the ice was stupid.
But he's a 25-year-old guy, like it's beyond.
He's 26. It's not like he's 18.
Other people do stupid. I don't know. We'll see. But it's,
it
really hurts him. And it's very self-defeating, which is an Evander Kane trait, right? So it's like, it is because he's having this great, and he's potentially like, even if the Sharks were to get eliminated by God and that by whatever's happening with Vegas right now, even if the Sharks were getting eliminated, I think you'd still have this Evander Kane has value that he's created by how he's played, and this is like just killing it a little bit. Like this to me is like just this is really it throws more monkey wrenches into the whole thing, right? So that's an issue there. So let's get on to the other game, because they were both good games. they were both fascinating games. The second game wasn't a good game.
Oh, by the way, we did get a view of Aaron Dell, why he can't be a starter either. Just to throw that in there.
No, we did, and but then again, when you're playing against gods, I don't think it matters. I think that at the end of the day, no one can blame anybody for what's happening.
It's not gods. Here's what it is. It's these guys all have a hunger and something to prove everybody wrong, and you've got to basically match them. And teams are coming in there not as intense, and it's hurting them. That's all.
Yeah. How can you not be as intense when you're in the second round of the playoffs?
See it. They weren't. The Sharks were so passive on their power play. It was ridiculous. Like almost, hey, we're going to finish to death.
Like half of that Vegas roster is playing for their hockey lives. They're either unrestricted free agents after being claimed by an expansion team.
No, I agree.
Or they're playing for new contracts. Like William Karlsson, coming off. I don't know if it was his entry level deal or his second contract, but he, if he follows up a 35 to 40 goal season with a great playoff, he can go to Vegas and say, okay, I want $6 million a year.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think that's, they are playing, but other people before in the past have played for their lives too. It's just, what's happening there is just totally unique and special and crazy.
It is unique.
But not almost an entire team. There's always been players who have been inspired by contract situations.
I will tell you something
or
else
whatever.
that's interesting about this whole thing. Okay, I know people now who've interviewed for the Carolina job. I know people who've interviewed for the Minnesota job, and something that is a common thread. What do you think it is? You don't have to think hard about it.
They're asking, how do you play like the Vegas Knights? Because it's a copycat league. Sure.
Yep, that's what's happening. So they're saying, I
don't think any other team can. That's the problem.
But how is that possible?
Yeah, I agree with that, Russ. Like,
yeah,
they're doing something that is. This is where I know when Gallant left Florida, or when he was fired from Florida, people will say, well, Florida actually got better from an underlying numbers perspective than when he was there. And there's that argument to justify that process of where they went with it. But there's the similar people are saying that he's not that great a coach, but he is a great coach, and he's found something with this group, with his roster, and he and McPhee figured something out even prior to that, to how they wanted to build a roster and the players they were looking for.
They did.
So while we look at remember a year ago and all the intrigue in this, and we looked at how are GMs going to keep their players. The alternative to that is McPhee goes, how am I going to get the players I want to build the kind of team the coach wants to have and he's going to deploy? And that's what we sort of missed in this process. And now Gallant literally got what he wanted, where other coaches, it can take years to get all those guys.
But, you know, if you really take the big season.
Does that make sense, Russ?
Oh, yeah.
No.
It makes sense. But here's I mean, go ahead, Russ. You respond to that.
No, I think it makes sense. The only thing I was going to add is Gallant didn't have this magic wand in Florida. And so
or Montreal. Like, he was in Montreal for a while, too.
So it's not just
an assistant.
And it's not just
still.
And he was head coach at Columbus a while back.
Right. And I love Gallant. Gallant's one of my favorite.
It does have to do with the makeup of players too, like Peter said, and that's why you can't duplicate it.
But even then, like, you can't tell me that he could go out and he could have planned this. Like, I mean, there's
No, I think. Look, I only think half of this was planned. I think the other half is the chemistry that sometimes happens on a team that nobody could ever explain,
which is totally unique to this sport. Can we admit that? I mean, this could not happen in another sport like this.
But it's inherently unfair for the ownership of Carolina and Minnesota to ask these managing prospects, you know, how do you do what Vegas did? Okay, how do we do it? How about giving me a completely blank salary cap and allowing me to pick up somebody even if they're making $6 million a year like James Neal? Yeah, it's easy. You know, you can plug in guys regardless of salary because you had a clean slate. That's why.
It's crazy. And that is one thing that's interesting. I think the salary thing is interesting because it looks at, you know, okay, if I'm a GM, one thing I'm going to say is we're going to do much shorter deals. Okay, we're going to give ourselves much more flexibility if we can. Now, you can't usually because once a player gets good, it's different. And that's the other thing that was brought to me the other day is there is going to be a point at which, you know, Vegas, if they're successful and continue to win, and if they win a Stanley Cup this year, which I'm starting to think they're going to, if that's the case, then no, I'm serious. I can't think of why they wouldn't.
There is one other thing too that we haven't mentioned in this moment, but I've mentioned before. Like in the chat room, they're like, "Hey, it's McPhee and his scouting." Well, McPhee didn't personally scout all these guys. Their pro scout is David Conte. David Conte won multiple Stanley Cups with the Devils. David Conte was dismissed by the Devils when the Devils dismissed Lou Lamoriello.
That is a great point.
Is another guy who has something to prove, and he's very good at his job, and he's proven.
And another guy is Kelly McCrimmon, who's their assistant general manager, who I know Toronto wanted for the Mark Hunter spot. You know, a guy who is really, you know, a good hockey mind who knows a lot of young players. And if you look at the draft, you know, we're not even talking about the kids that they drafted in the first round. Russ knows about it, and Cody Glass and Brandstrom,
they're not even a factor.
They're not even a factor. And the thing about this is, so you sit there and say, okay, well, it is a goalie, right? So it's Marc-Andre Fleury that he's his experience. He's playing out of his mind. It's a big portion of it. But at the same time, when Fleury was hurt, they still were great this year.
Sure, they still were very good.
I mean, and they still, now I'm not saying that, you know, without Fleury, they would be able to go in the playoffs like they're going right now. But this has got to be like the strangest voodoo-ish type thing that we've ever seen, because it feels like, I mean, they would have, any team in the NHL, you could have gone to any team in the NHL at the beginning of the season when they had their roster set, they picked their roster in Vegas. And if Vegas said to I don't know, let's throw a team out there, the Carolina Hurricanes, we will trade you our entire roster for your entire roster, Carolina wouldn't have done it.
The only difference is this team had a year to scout these players because they ran scenarios and they had an idea
they did.
Who they might be able to get. Teams don't have that long to prepare because there's a season going on.
And is that the thing?
Yeah, exactly. And just remember that year's hugely important because not only did they have a time to scout, they also had a time to start figuring out who their rivals wanted to protect.
Right.
So it wasn't like you were just looking at everyone. You knew exactly who they were protecting, and you knew you had leverage on them. And I honestly think I mean, and there's part of me that almost wants to see Vegas win. Because I want to see the book that's written in 10 years when, you know, McPhee's eventually fired and he does his tell-all of how he went through this, because it will be the greatest story in sports franchise history. if
It'll
they
probably
do this.
They'll do a movie, but they'll sanitize.
It'll be a movie. It'll be
Oh, there's
incredible.
gonna be a
I
movie.
understand what that year was.
But
I
I
was
don't
gonna
think
say
it's a great story. I think it's a great story, but I think that, you know, this is not, we're not talking about, they didn't do crazy things. They just did smart things, right? So they didn't
No,
do anything.
they took advantage of the landscape that they had. They read it and they took advantage of it. I mean, in no other expansion history are you going to be given a 30-goal scorer to take on another guy who used to be a 25-goal scorer. They got Riley. They got Marchessault because they took Riley Smith because Florida wanted to dump the contract.
When they do this as a Disney movie, when McPhee, who's probably going to be played by like Jason Priestley.
No, Brad Pitt. He's going to be played by Brad Pitt because the book's going to be written.
They can't use him. He's typecast. But when they call like Brian Burke up, Brian Burke will be like polite and have combed hair. Like that's, you know, what Disney.
Yeah, no, it'll be, I mean, can you imagine McPhee being played by anybody? I mean, McPhee is such a, and he's a great guy, but he's
Jiminy Cricket.
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. Here's one of the theories that I've heard, and I put it out to my Writers' Day, and I want my readers of my blog. I want you guys to help me, and so we can come up with exactly what's going on here. Because and like you guys have filled in some blanks already, but I think that what's the one thing I thought of, okay, is NHL teams can't see that. You sometimes, I know you, when you're in an organization, you can't see the forest through the trees, right? So you see situations that are going on, and you see a player that doesn't fit into your system because of maybe other bad decisions you've made, that your system is in a certain place. So you then you find that player not valuable, you let that player go. And but if he's going to a team that doesn't have a system yet, because that team, it was, you know, Vegas, they didn't have things in place, that team will gladly take that player when you should have kept that player and fix the other problems you had.
Yeah. So 30 general managers had to make that choice based on their rosters. They had salary cap issues. They had contract issues of who they couldn't like expose. They had all these different variables. But Vegas, with the clean slate, they only had to worry about, they got to look at the landscape way bigger than the individual general managers who only looked at their roster.
Right.
And that's the advantage, because Vegas at that point had no liabilities.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Like when you have no liabilities on your books, I mean, you're in a power of strength.
Yeah.
Peter, they were able to take on Mikhail Grabovski's contract from the Islanders that was an albatross around their neck because he's injured, because it was an LTIR contract. They could use that to occupy cap space, and they got a first-round pick for it. They were able to do that with
here, Mike. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking. I didn't help the Islanders at all. I mean, that's the stupidity of Garth Snow.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, is McPhee took everybody for a ride on these things.
He took advantage. He took advantage of the limitations and everything else of every general manager. He read the landscape of every team.
I'll take that guy, sure.
Yeah, give me David Clarkson. I'll take William Karlsson.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Even then, like William Karlsson.
Oh, you're getting you mean I get rid of Clarkson and that nightmare, but I got to get rid of and that's the thing. The value proposition to Columbus, right?
Yeah.
Is this solves this problem, to your point, Ak, right? This problem's gone. But was that really the problem they should have worried about?
Right. I mean,
and that's the decision-making thing. And to your original point, forest from the trees.
Yeah, and I know this happens, and it happens on teams all the time. And this is why sometimes, you know, bringing in a new GM that's not connected to you at all is a good idea, because you don't have to deal with all that stuff that's already there, right? And
we should transition to Pittsburgh and Washington.
I think this is such an incredible, it's evolving story, and it's now actually consuming me, because I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm saying to myself, this is just, also, I've fought with Russ about this over the years, right? I'm one who believes fully that you can't do things a certain way, you know, like you know, Russ, you don't believe this wholly, but a lot of people in your world of drafts and prospects tend to have very tried and true things that they will not do. They will not play Hart next year. It's just an example, but I'm just saying, and I'm not saying they should, but I'm saying there's these things that are tried and true, and there's so much that went on with Vegas here that was not the tried and true stuff, that to me, that fascinates me. Like, what are we missing? You know, like what, and that just means like you have to get these people who are new wave thinkers all the time, because my theory is the second something becomes tried and true, it becomes pointless.
But the problem is this isn't new wave thought. This is not like 25-year-old guys coming up with a great idea. George McPhee's been a general manager for decades.
Yeah, but
Gerard Gallant's been
but you know what's funny? And then we should transition. This will be a 2-year team. Guys will start transitioning off this team next year, and then the youngsters will come up. Like, then that will be the Vegas Knights. Like, that's just the way it's going to be.
Picked players to trade them that are now making huge impacts. Like players on his team that he picked that were supposed to be traded at the deadline because he didn't think he'd be in the race are now possibly going to win a Stanley Cup with him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that in and of itself is insane. Anyway, it's a wonderful story. We'll talk about it more. Let's go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, let's go to the less wonderful story of the Washington Capitals choking once again.
Another 2-0 lead, scoring like 17 seconds in. I was all like, I was so right. Capitals are going to take them apart. You should have seen how happy I was. And I'm like,
taking a picture of how happy you were.
I told my wife, I'm like, everybody else doesn't believe me, but I'm telling you, the Capitals are going to win this series, no questions asked. And
honestly,
I want to know, when it got tied, what was your wife's expression then?
Yeah, at that point, I think she was happy. She was somewhere else. I was completely by myself, crying in the corner.
No, honestly, like I said, I picked Pittsburgh in this series. I expected this, but the thing was, they get up 2. They score 20 seconds into the first period. They get up 2-0 going into the third, and I'm thinking, okay, Washington's going to give. Pittsburgh's without Malkin. It doesn't matter. I mean, Russ, you were telling me via text, because I was watching the game while I was watching the NFL draft too, that Holtby looked slow, that he was going side to side badly. I mean, if he's hurt.
The pressure started mounting on him to the point where, and I did text you guys that I felt like mentally he was starting to lose it. And then the next goal went in, and I was like, yeah, you could just see he was a different goalie the minute the armor got pierced. And I think that was the whole way for the Capitals. Like, I think the Capitals felt like, look, we're playing our game. We're beating Pittsburgh the way we drew it up. But the problem, again, that I always tell people, and this is the problem with Pittsburgh, they will score in waves. You don't know when it's coming. They can look completely out of a game and can come completely. I mean, Jake Gensel right now is averaging 2.29 points per game, more than Mario Lemieux. It would be a Penguins record if the season ended today. Like, these are things that you can't quantify that they are able to do.
Well, a lot of these guys have learned how to play in the playoffs on a championship team, so they don't know anything else. Like, this is what they do.
But Pittsburgh is in Washington's head. Peter.
Oh yeah, there's no question.
Are.
And I think that I'm going to go with Holtby is hurt and not in his head, though, because Holtby is the one guy. The one thing about Holtby I've always found is he doesn't let people get into his head. I think that's one of his strengths.
When you saw him staring to the heavens after the second goal, you knew it got to him.
Oh yeah, no, it got to him. But part of me is thinking okay, he's frustrated because he knows he can't make the moves he wants to make. He can't make the plays he wants to make, and more than it is like the Penguins are just so much better than everybody else. Like I mean, the Penguins should be called the Sharks. That's what they do. Like they swarm, right? I mean, this Penguins team more than any other team is a feeding frenzy type team. They feed on any kind of doubt that the other team has. So if you score 1 goal, you score 3 goals. That's what they do. That's how it works.
I saw Phil Kessel doing stick moves in that game that I haven't seen all season. All of a sudden, he woke up for 10 minutes, and that's all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, and in a way, the Penguins won this game too easily, I want to say, because they come from behind 2-0, but then they don't play well for most of the game, and then they end up winning the game. So it's like that's how the Penguins play. And I know you could sit there and say whatever, but I feel like this could perhaps. I'm not giving up on the Caps yet, but I'm saying that this was definitely one of those cases where you saw clear as day how good the Penguins are, and how.
Well, I mean, you can't ignore this about the Capitals. They've played 4 home games, and they're 1-3 at home. That's not a winning formula.
I mean, Eck, it sounds like you're the captain of the Titanic, and you just got the message that there's a big iceberg out there, and you're like, no.
Message that there's icebergs out there. Okay, that's what I've got. That's where I am right now. I'm not at the point where there's a big iceberg out there. There's icebergs, and we got to deal with that.
Yeah, and if you mimic the Titanic's captain, all you do is say full ahead and slam right into it.
Yeah, because that's what you have to do. There's nothing. The only way to knock penguins off an iceberg is to slam into them, Mike. So that's to take this metaphor as far as I possibly
cruelty,
can.
by the way, just so you know.
What?
That's animal cruelty if you do that.
Yes, and also icebergs aren't in the northern hemisphere. So there you have it. I mean penguins, not icebergs. Penguins aren't in the northern hemisphere. Sorry. Okay, so let's move on to tonight. Okay, let's get to it. Before I do that,
that's what we're gonna say about the Capitals.
Yeah, that's it, because it's 143. X Addict for today, really quickly. Yesterday I showed the 1972-73 WHA media guide where we found out that that in the WHA you were not allowed to ice the puck when you were shorthanded, which was kind of.
By the way, who was putting that into a 3-ring binder back in the day?
I know, it's a 3-ring binder thing, isn't it? So today, not only do I have this original, okay, so WHA official emblems.
Oh, nice.
So on this side, I've got the original Jets emblem, right?
Wow.
Pretty cool.
That's cool.
Like you've been to Joe Daly's house.
I have this picture here.
They ripped that off the jersey of Lars. They ripped that off the jersey of Lars Eric Schubert.
Got Joe Daly there.
This is Joe Daly. Okay. An autograph.
Joe Daly's got a memorabilia store up here.
Yeah. We all know him. We know him through Twitter, and I've had
there's his picture signed. Joe Daly's signed picture.
Everybody in Winnipeg owns a Joe Daly autograph.
So it's just fascinating. Like I've got. I mean, this is all Winnipeg stuff, Peter. I thought you would really kind of think.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Joe Daly was
traded for Peter. Somebody gave me this too. This is Sport. This is Canadian magazine.
Yep.
Oh wow!
All right, 25 cents. It's like
So who's the cover guy on that?
Josh Rosen.
He looks like I think he plays for Army. I want to say this is like.
Okay, so they actually went college on that. Wow.
Yeah. So this is and I'm guessing this is I guess that's an old Canadian magazine. No.
No.
I don't recall it.
Sport was a U.S. magazine. I used to get Sport and.
Oh, this was.
Yeah, Sport's a U.S. magazine.
Wow. Okay.
It was basically a poor man's Sports Illustrated.
Right, but it's rare that and they were cheaper too. It was rare though that they would have like a college athlete on it. That's what's cool about that.
Yeah. No. A couple of other things here, like well, I got a couple. And I've got things I'll save for other days. But as far as Winnipeg goes, I got a couple great old cards here that were given to me, like Dale Howardchuk.
Oh, there you go, Ducky.
Yep, and this, which that's the, and then I got this thing real quick. I'll show you this.
Morris the Cat Lukowicz.
Yeah, right. We've got the original. So that and I got one other. This one here. That would be Don Burgess, right?
Don Burgess. Wow.
So.
Wow.
Old Winnipeg Jets stuff.
Sweet old Winnipeg Jets. Anders Hedberg is still a scout for the Rangers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really, that's pretty cool. And what is this? Because you're the guy who you're the memorabilia guy. This thing is called it's called Canadian Legends, the official Hockey Hall of Fame medallion collection.
That comes straight from the Hockey Hall. They do those. They used to do those every year. I don't think they do. They do pucks now. I don't know if they do those anymore, but they do pucks every year. So that's that's when the Hockey Hall of Fame
Bobby Orr
manufactured a lot of stuff.
All right, so that's some of X Addicts today. If you have any ideas for X Addicts, send it to Hecklin@HockeyBuzz.com. And here we go. One more thing. Sorry, this is really kind of cool. I don't know what this is from, but I'm guessing this is. That would be
Bob. And I guess it's from Stamp Set, maybe.
Bobby Hall, yeah, 70-71. It says
corporation. So they were taken out of like some sort of booklet that
like
had
one of those stamp books,
stamp book, or maybe something from like a McDonald's or something where you had to get them and paste them into something.
Right.
But if you lick the back of the stamp, it tastes like scotch.
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to lick the back of the stamp, but yes.
You could have the same fate as George Costanza's wife.
This is on loan to the Eklund Hockey Hall of Fame here. But this is stuff that she was over there today, and she's like, I know you're a hockey fan. I have some old stuff because my dad used to work for the Winnipeg Jets, and she brought all this stuff over. It's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
All right, so there you have it. The X Addict. If you have any old stuff that you think is really interesting, send an email to Eklund@HockeyBuzz.com. Put X Addict in the subject.
Send my grandparents over.
Or you have a couple things.
It's also an X Addict. Dust.
A little bit. So and right now the it's a graveyard for ex-Flyers goalies basically. There's a lot of them. All right, so moving on to tonight. Let's get into it. Nashville, Winnipeg. My prediction's coming up in a little bit, so I'm not going to give my prediction. I'm going to give my thoughts. Because I've got to, someone's got to pay the bills at Hockey Buzz. So I got to write it up. So anyway, but let's start with Peter. Your thoughts on the Winnipeg Jets versus Nashville Predators series?
Well, I'm just sort of getting it all together on my blog right now before we started because I'm a little bit behind due to a big professional conference this week. And I just read Paul McCann's article. It's a great little thing. I think he's got some really interesting points in there. I've said it all week, and I'll keep saying it. I was asked 50 times last night at this dinner I was at, and I say it will be the team that stays healthy and the goaltender that holds his crease the best. That's going to be the team that wins this.
Yeah.
And when I started, I'm doing my breakdown of strengths and weaknesses for each team and who has the advantage. And I'm at goaltenders right now. I got 2 other categories to do. Man, if the Jets are going to win this, they're going to find a way to get Nashville to do things Nashville doesn't want to do. And that's going to be very difficult. And I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but I think they need that to happen. And if the Jets are winning it, it's probably going to take the equivalent ice time in 9 games because I expect overtimes. Like 4-4 ties going into overtime. I see a lot of those given the way these two teams have played.
And the Predators didn't score a goal all year in overtime, by the way. The Predators had no goals in overtime for themselves. Kind of odd.
Really?
So they either won in shootout or they lost in overtime.
Right.
I mean, I think this is going to be an incredibly close series, and like I think we said earlier in the week, my one concern regarding the Jets is the health of their defense, specifically Myers and Enstrom. I think the goalies. I think Rene's got the experience advantage, but I saw in Rene a couple times during the Colorado series where I didn't think he was sharp. But it was like they were able to take advantage of him, and Hellebuck I think played pretty consistently against Minnesota. So I think the way the Jets win this series is the way Toronto would have had to beat Boston, which is wide open hockey, which is and I don't think Nashville, even though I think they're capable of playing that, I don't think they want to play that way. I don't think they're going to be forced to play that way. So I think it could take overtimes, but I'm going to go with Predators in 7. I think it's going to be long. I think it's going to be really entertaining. I think it could get dirty at times because there's some. I mean, Bufflin is going to throw his weight around. He's going to try to knock people down. I really want to see Bufflin and Subban go at it. That would be pretty interesting. Oh, I know, not fight-wise, but I'm just saying, like, stick, check, that kind of stuff. I think it's going to...
I think the hate-on's going to come, and it's going to come probably about within the first half of the first period.
I could see that.
Like, it won't take long.
No, I could see that.
Yeah. No, I think there's going to be it's going to get rough really quickly.
If nothing else, the people from Winnipeg hate the climate that the people in Nashville have. So
I think that if I had the money to travel and cover any series, I would. This is the one I'd want to do. Like,
I have two friends who left this morning for Nashville.
Really? Nice.
Friend of mine, she's an insurance broker, and her daughter. Her daughter had a friend who lives in Nashville that she knew from university, and he's a season ticket holder. He's allowed to get 2 extra tickets, so he bought 2 for them.
Nice.
And they got flights on Wednesday.
Wow!
And just said we're going to do it. They're 5 rows up on from the glass, and they'll be loud and proud. I'm really happy that they're going. Going to see games in that city is incredible. I mean, they're gonna have the best time. And the funny thing is, so I was there. One of the times I was there for the playoffs was the Vancouver Canucks were in town. Oh yeah, 2011.
Yep, I was there for that. And so I was going out, and I was sitting in the actual crowd because the press box was full. So the Predators gave me and my buddy, the other guy was covering with me, 2 tickets in the crowd, and our press passes so we can go cover afterwards. So I'm sitting in the crowd next to like a really nice Asian couple from Vancouver who were in their Vancouver, all dressed up in their Vancouver stuff. and they couldn't go. And this is the playoffs again, and they couldn't have said enough nice things. They're like, are all Americans this kind? You know, the people here have been so nice to you.
Well, that's what Lynn and Lan asked me last night. She goes, "Do you think this is going?" I said, "No, you're going to be treated really well."
Yeah.
I've never heard of any story. I said, one of the guys who writes on the website is the in-house voice for the Preds. He's a super guy. I said, they run a class operation there, and you're not going to have any problems.
Not at all.
It's just like coming to Buffalo.
It's so not.
It's so different than Buffalo.
Yeah, it's so not. It's crazy. So, I mean, I agree with most of what you said, Peter, as far as the series go. I think this does come down to goaltending. I do think that Rene has shown a little bit of flaws through the first round. I also thought, Hellebuyck played one pretty terrible game in the first round too, right? So, these are two of the three Vezina finalists, right? And yet these, like we talked about a couple times now, they gave up 9 goals a game in the regular season. I mean, I don't think this is right. I know it's not regular season anymore, but I do think we'll see a lot of scoring. I don't think this is going to be low scoring. I think that works towards the Jets' advantage, but it doesn't kill them, kill the Predators, because the Predators are a better offensive team than people give them credit for. So at the end of the day, this is a pick'em series. I think I really don't see, I'm gonna have to make a pick this afternoon, and I will make a pick, but I've gone both ways in my head so many times on this series as to who's going to actually win. I think that
you can't pick both of them, Mac.
I won't. I think I don't think the Predators play as well as they could against Colorado. But I also think that they were kind of looking ahead to this series in some ways.
Well, I just think sometimes teams just don't get it going for a while. I think that's all that was.
Yeah. I mean, the guys that have to get it going, that didn't get it going, Johansson, has to be really good. And we talked about, the other,
Kevin said Kyle Turris, and I agree with that.
I agree with Turris, and I'm not, a huge Turris fan, but he's got to show up for this series. The defense is, they got so much scoring from that fourth line, which is so good. But you've seen Sissons and Watson are good playoff players now. They've done it in 2 playoff runs. They're good playoff players. I think
Watson's leading the team.
I know. I think the Jets are going to give them all. I think the Jets are going to have a huge relief having gotten past this whole concept of winning a first playoff series, and I think it's wonderful for them that they're starting on the road.
Just let me know when you want to pick.
So your turn. Go ahead.
You're not going to say anything.
Take it over.
No.
I'm crying.
Nashville does have a ton of experience. I am still holding out hope that Roy Clark will do the national anthem with the banjo. I think that's great for the market.
He's 85.
It doesn't matter. He'll be great. Everybody will be tapping their toes. It'd be fantastic. Instead,
it's going to be the group from
that actually, if he does the national anthem with the banjo, that could bring out something in Winnipeg that you guys wouldn't understand.
No, that's Buck Owens. That's Buck Owens.
In Winnipeg to understand. Is that
no. See, we our football team, our rival here is in the province of Saskatchewan, the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. We have this thing called the Banjo Bowl.
Okay.
And it's because back before a playoff game in, I think, 2003, the kicker for the team, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a man by the name of Troy Westwood, who is also on the morning show on TSN 1290 here.
Troy Westwood, he does.
He said, people in Saskatchewan are nothing but banjo picking inbreds. And it's ever been called the Banjo Bowl. And if you give Winnipeggers a chance to use banjo in anything, inbreds is coming out after. And I don't
that's awesome.
The Rough Riders, I forget who they were playing in the Grey Cup.
Probably the other Rough Riders.
No, they played the Grey Cup recently, didn't they?
The Red Blacks.
They won in 2013.
Yeah, didn't they have a horse in the lobby of the hotel?
Oh no, that was the Stampeders in Cal when they came to, and they bring the horse and everything to go to the Grey Cup, and they brought the horse into the lobby of the Royal York,
right?
In Toronto.
And it took a dump in the Royal York, probably.
Oh, yeah. But anyhow, get back to hockey.
Please.
Nashville does have this experience.
Of course.
Experience factor that
which is going to hurt.
Really doesn't have, coaching wise and otherwise. Laviolette is the king of timeouts. We all know that.
Oh yeah.
Nobody could touch that.
If you're his kid, you probably spend a lot of time in the corner. Take the timeout.
Harry Z must be somewhere in the building, I'm sure, even though he's not playing.
Yeah.
I'm going with Nashville in 6, though. I am, because I think what will happen with Winnipeg is they will get worn down. I think even though they're a big team, I think Nashville might wear them out mentally. That's my hope.
Interesting. I think that's I mean, it could happen.
To that point, this is going to be an acid test moment for Paul Maurice to see if he's changed and evolved as a coach. I think he has, but the biggest fear is Laviolette's going to outcoach him.
Sure, that is
and I think there's reason to believe that, historically speaking, and what we know, and not because of Paul Maurice, but also because of Laviolette and how good a coach he is. And that's going to be one thing to watch for sure.
Peter, just a sort of an esoteric note here. I love the whiteout in Winnipeg, but it sort of loses its allure when the fact is that the Jets are wearing their dark uniforms.
Oh, but Mike, the photos look so good when they score and it's all white behind them. And
I loved it when they were
really good.
But I'm just saying, it's like I wish they could wear their white uniforms in terms of like it's a whiteout, so they could wear their white uniforms and they would blend.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. But.
Yeah, I know, but
I would be. I mean, I think my beef now with that whole thing is that the Flyers' new orange colors T-shirts are horrendous. I'm just gonna put that out there. Russ, the teams change their orange colors. I don't know, whatever. I agree with you on the white out. And my wife said the same thing. My wife said it's a white out and they're all wearing blue. I'm like, yeah, that's how it goes.
I crave uniformity. What can I say? Should we make our picks on Boston Tampa since it starts tomorrow?
Yes, we should. We don't have much time, so let's get moving. So Boston Tampa. This is a funny. Everybody seems to be going Tampa on the website for this one. Everybody seems to be leaning towards Tampa. What are your thoughts, Mike?
I've been taking a pricking Tampa. Tampa's my pick to come out of the East. So it's not because Boston was forced to a seventh game against Toronto. I just think the goaltending of Rask is a question mark. Now, Vasilevsky was a question mark going in, but he played pretty well against Jersey. I think Tampa got a little bit of a wake up call against the Devils, and I think that helps them. Stamkos started to pick it up at the end of that series, so they're deep. The one surprising thing is Victor Hedman in 5 games didn't have a point. I wonder if he's playing hurt because that's very unusual. Usually he piles up the points in the playoffs, but they've got depth on the blue line and JT Miller in that addition at the deadline. He's scoring for them, so I like them. I think the Bruins are really good, but I picked the Lightning in 6, I believe.
Okay, Lightning in 6. Russ?
I'm going to go Tampa in 6 as well. Reasons being they're not playing against the Leafs defense. That the Bruins are going to find out that it's going to be a lot harder against Tampa's top 3 than it was the Leafs' top 3. I also felt like Cassidy's very stubborn. He's going to go with the same lineup probably right on through, and that could be a mistake. I felt like even though McQuaid did get that point on the important goal, I felt like he got knocked around a bit. I think a bunch of their guys got knocked around a bit, and I feel like they're the more injured group also because Tampa's had this time to rest. Tampa will probably come out rusty in the first game, and you'll probably feel pretty good for a couple minutes, but I think after that, probably not.
Well, I'm not picking. You don't know who I'm picking.
Yeah.
But you almost said it.
I almost did.
I think I like how you summarized that, Russ. I think Boston's got some holes. Tampa has
but my summary sucked.
but Tampa has less holes, and I think if Vasilevsky can outplay Rask, Tampa's going to win this, and they're going to do it in 6.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. But we'll find out. I think. I'm a little disappointed that someone told me the other day. I thought it was really funny that we're not going to see the West Side Story final of Jets versus Sharks. I thought about that.
Yeah,
we could still. We have the Jets Sharks West Side Story conference final.
I hate musicals, so that's good.
It's possible. It's still possible. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got time for today, guys. Have a great weekend and enjoy the games. Obviously tonight, I don't think there's anybody who's a hockey fan who shouldn't be at home watching this game or at the arena watching this game because this is going to be good. This is the other thing I forgot to mention about this game. To me, this is the best team the best team the Predators have played in the playoffs besides the Penguins. Like this is better. These are better than all the 3 teams that that the Penguins, that the Sharks, that the Predators had to beat last year. The Jets are better than all three teams they had to beat last year.
I think all the pressure is on Paul McCann, but we'll see.
Well, Paul will be there. Paul shows up. And
You got to do more than show up this year.
last minute to play in the
He's
period.
going to have to actually say something.
Here's something you have to listen for. I mean, you can't really hear it when you're there, but whenever Paul says last minute to play in the period, the whole audience says, "Thank you, Paul." You'll hear it together.
Yes.
It's hilarious. It's something that they've done for a long time. Remember read Paul's article, read Peter's article, which is coming up. And I'll have my predictions up this afternoon as well. So enjoy. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you on Monday. Have fun.